Everybody, welcome back. I'm very excited to have this next gentleman on the show. He is currently serving as a law enforcement professional in Canada, of all places. And I haven't been to Canada in a while, but it's beautiful up there.
Yeah.
Sach, Latti, what's up, buddy?
Not much, buddy, man. I just want to say thank you for giving me the opportunity to come on and talk about what I'm doing. So thanks, bro. Nice to meet you.
Oh, nice to meet you, brother. And I know we kind of ping pong back and forth about with times and stuff like that, but I apologize. And I'm glad you're here, brother. First of all, thank you for your service.
Thank you.
You know, I know you work at the border, and I know you're a canine officer, and thank you for serving. It's a very difficult time in law enforcement here in the United States as well as Canada, I imagine. But your story, what you're doing now, what you started doing is amazing. Can you tell the listener a little bit about you and the journey you started on?
Yeah, so sure. So I've been working in law enforcement for the last 18 years and love the career, love the place I'm working at, love all the people. Everything about it really fed me. But like many people through the pandemic, I suspect a lot of people just like myself struggled, right?
Yeah.
And I also was going through about 4 or 5 years ago marriage issues, and right before the pandemic kicked off, separation and divorce started happening. And so that for me was a huge, just, you know, like everyone else, it affected me, and it affected me because I was the squeaky wheel. So I was the one who created the problems. Now, having said that, through the process of the pandemic, up here in Canada, or at least where I live in the Vancouver area, British Columbia, the restrictions were pretty severe in certain cases. So I'm an avid athlete. Like I work out all the time. I lift weights, jiu-jitsu.
I can't tell at all.
Yeah, right.
You're built, dude. You're a beast.
Hey, man. You know what? You know what? I appreciate that, and thank you for noticing that. Normally, throughout my life, I would always never acknowledge when people would say things like that because it makes me feel uncomfortable generally. But I accept that because the reality is, doing what I'm doing now, I do have a few skill sets that are pretty decent, and so to go off what we were talking about, the pandemic, I was dealing with my mental health struggles quite massively. Depression and anxiety was really kicking me in the junk at the time because of the divorce, the separation, my role in causing a lot of the issues, and then also the pandemic and not having any tools to help kind of manage my mental health. The only tool I had was fitness, and that was taken away. So I needed to do something, and I hadn't ran in 25 years. I'm 44. And last time I went to high school in Texas, just so you know, I went to high school in Dallas, Plano, Texas, and I was a wrestler on that team. And when I was wrestling, I was the worst runner even in high school, right, on that wrestling team. But so I hadn't ran since then, and I you know, because I wanted to kind of improve the individual that I was, based off of how I observed myself at that time. I wanted to start reading various different books to see what I could do to be a better person for everyone around me. And I picked up, obviously, like most people in our field, pick up books from Jocko Willink. So I read Extreme Ownership cover to cover, and I owned a lot of things that I needed to own. And as soon as I started owning things, then I was able to dictate how I was able to move forward. I owned all my garbage and started moving in that direction. But I still had issues with managing my mental health. So I kept hearing about Goggins, and I was like, fuck it. Okay, let me see what he's about. And so I picked up his book and I read that, but I didn't read it cover to cover. I read 2 chapters. I read the first 2 chapters and I was like, okay, I'm going to start running. Right. And I suggested that to myself because I never liked it. And the underlying theme in that book is basically do things that you don't like to do. Right.
Absolutely.
And so I started, and look, man, I may look like a fit guy, but I wasn't a runner. I'm probably 180 pounds now, and I was in and around 200 pounds then, but more of a bodybuilder type of look. Right. So I would do 5-kilometer runs. So that's 3.11 miles, 3 times a week. Right. And so I'd schedule myself to do that. And just so I could create the pattern of that to happen every week, right? So then I started running, and then, as you said, I look fit, so I started seeing progress, and then within short order, within 2 months, I was like, you know what, I'm going to do a half marathon, but it wasn't a race. I just said I'm going, and I
Yeah,
want
you're
to
gonna
do it
do it.
right now, and I just did it. I went out for a run and I kicked it off. Now, but through all that process, I just started thinking, man, I'm developing pretty decently here, and not really a runner, and I'm working full time, and I'm doing all these things. Okay, wait a second, let me see what I can do here. Maybe I can leverage this for some sort of positivity, right? And so what I did in 2020 is when I started running. In 2021, from January to November, I was basically training to run 100 kilometers.
Wow.
And so then what I ended up doing in August of 2021, I started fundraising for a charity that's here in locally here in BC. It's called the BC Yukon Legion, and it's all they do is basically support veterans and veterans with occupational stress injuries or PTSD. And so I was like, you know what, man, let me do that, right? So what I did was from August to November 7th of last year, I was fundraising and raised $21,000 for that charity,
Wow. That's
all through
amazing.
running, just through me, just doing social media, Instagram. That was it. And I
Wow.
wasn't even an Instagram guy. I just started Instagram, opened it up last August.
Yeah.
And so when I saw that, man, that really impacted me. Look, I hadn't ran before. I trained myself to run 100K. I did that 100K. I ran from one city to another city, which was 100 kilometers, 60, 70 miles in and around that. And I did that in just under 15 hours on a pulled
Wow.
hamstring, which I pulled a week before. So that got me thinking. I was like, look, man, okay, wait a second. I can do this. I've never run before. I've done all these things. Okay, you know what? I'm going to reevaluate the direction I'm going to go in life. And I felt a significant paradigm shift in perspective after I did all those things, man. It really affected me.
Yeah.
Right. And it changed how I looked at things. Now, mind you, when I did that last November, I was still quite depressed and desperate because I was disillusioned with my place in life, like my purpose in life. I didn't feel like I had one anymore because, working 18 years in law
Sure.
enforcement, things, whatever. I just felt
Yeah.
disillusioned with
A lot of
things.
people.
Yeah. But I didn't want to go down that road of like being negative, and really I could see where that was leading me, right? And I was really dark spot, man. I wasn't doing well, like mentally. And I was alone. I hadn't really, most of my friends for the last 18 years, I just couldn't relate to them anymore. And so I just, the connections just fell apart, right? And I was extremely isolated, extremely alone. Through the divorce, I
Mhm.
left the house. My ex-wife got the house, that was the ownership I took, and I didn't want to fight with it. But I was living in a basement suite, and I had been living in a like a basement suite's like just a rental place in a basement of a house, and I still am now. But that got me thinking even more, and I was chasing money a lot. I was chasing doing shit, like bullshit stuff, man, and there was
Mhm.
no movement. And I realized I didn't care about money. I just wanted to help people, and I
Yeah.
just wanted to be a better person for everyone around me, and I wanted to maximize the skills that I have. So when I was at work and I'm running the dog, it's like the best job in the world, right? And I had a moment and like an epiphany when I was at work one day, and I was running. My partner was running his dog on one of the exercises we were doing. I was just observing, and in that moment, I was hit like a ton of bricks. I was like, oh fuck, I'm wasting my time. Like right, just like that, I was like,
Yeah.
I'm wasting the time. Like I could do so much more for so many people
Absolutely.
just by doing what I know how to do, and or using my skill sets to the best of my ability. So then I started thinking, okay, you know what I'm going to do? I'm gonna. So this year, what I did is I set a goal to raise $30,000 for a different charity, which is a smaller charity based close to where I live. It's called Honor House, and that charity supports current military staff, veterans, all first responders, so police, firefighters, paramedics, border, everybody, even Americans. When we have Americans come up here, if they need some sort of help, we square them away, right?
Mhm.
And so I was like, I'm going to try to raise money for them. And so what I did this year is I scheduled myself to do 6 ultra marathons throughout the year. And so starting in March is when I started. But for me, it was more of like a learning process of understanding how to fuel my body and the nutrition, all the nuance involved
Sure.
to be that
Yeah.
kind of athlete. So that was what I was doing. It was learning. So in March, April, May, I would go somewhere and do like a 60K run or a 100K run or a 50K run, or there would be something, always doing something every month. And through that, I've raised about $13,000
Wow.
for animals, and I'm not done yet. So by my last run for this year is on Sunday, and it's an 80-kilometer run, 50 miles in and around that. And my goal is to do that in under 10 hours, maybe 8 or 9 hours, which is a significant jump compared to what I was able to do last year. So physically, I know I'm more capable.
Well, you're always pushing. You're pushing yourself more and more.
I'm constantly pushing. I'm constantly at the tip of the spear, trying to be better. And so I'm quite sure in the next couple of weeks, hopefully with more media attention, we'll be able to get closer to that 30K mark. But really, what I've done is I've set a 10-year plan of what I'm doing. This is not by the free seat of my pants. I'm doing everything planned out. What I'm doing now was planned 2 years ago. And what I'm going to do next year was planned 3 years ago. So to illustrate what I mean by that, after I ran that first 100 kilometers on the 7th of November, I was lost. I was desperate. I was alone. I was fucked.
Yeah.
Right. And by the grace of whatever you want to call it, God or spirit or whomever, I was on the news because of what I did.
Wow.
And a person saw it, and someone that I needed to see that. And so anyways, this person that I met, he was a veteran. He's older. He's 60 years old, veteran. He served Canadian forces with exceptional distinction. And he basically, we connected through social media, Instagram. We started chatting and talking. And so what he did, he lives about 10 hours drive from where I live.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And the reason why I was interested, look, I'm not a dumb guy. I know what's what. And I started talking to him, and so essentially he was a tier 1 operator.
Yeah.
You know what tier 1
operator? Yeah, I was in the military.
Yeah, so you ever heard of JTF2?
I think I have.
Yeah, so JTF2 is the equivalent of Navy SEALs in Canada.
Yeah. So they're all tier 1. You got Delta and you know.
So this guy was the tier 1, but when tier 1 was created in Canada, he was selected for the first teams.
Wow.
And he retired as a warrant officer. Right? And so anyway, so he used to train tier 1.
Wow.
As well. And he used to.
So he's a badass.
He's all the things. All the things. Master sniper, parachute, like a whole 9 yards. Everything that. Almost like having Jocko Willink on speed dial.
Wow.
Essentially. So what I did was what he did for me was save my life. Every single day for 2 months, he would Zoom call me to make sure I wasn't doing anything stupid. But also he would performance coach me out of the state I was in. After he was a tier 1 operator, that wasn't the only thing he did. He only did that for 13 years. After he retired, he did a bunch of other things.
Yeah.
And eventually he became a performance coach for elite athletes. And he himself became you ever heard of 24-hour solo mountain bike races?
I haven't.
Yeah, so it's a thing apparently.
It sounds brutal.
Yeah. So he used to, when he retired, at the age of 42, he started doing 24-hour solo mountain bike races. And he did one 48-hour one actually. And it's not like, just lackadaisical. They're fucking giving it for 24 hours, right?
Oh yeah.
So he became a world champion at that. And then he through that, he ended up becoming a coach for 15 years to extreme, like high, what do you call it? Like endurance athletes.
Yeah.
Right. And he has 6 world champions that he's trained, and so he knows his shit.
And you got him on speed dial.
He's my mentor.
Yeah.
He's been my mentor since November of last year, and he's been, at the beginning he was connecting with me all the time, and because I needed it. And what he helped me understand was what my purpose was. He wasn't telling me, like what they do. He basically showed me, or not showed me. He helped me.
Gave you the tools to help you find it.
Yeah, and he helped me turn down the white noise.
Yeah, I like that.
It made it super easy for me. I was like, okay, cool. I don't need a lot of money to live. I need about 50 grand a year. Now, as soon as I established that, made everything easy, then I can think, well, I can quit my job and go 100% in and doing what I'm doing. And doing what I'm doing, I can generate 50 grand a year. That's it.
Exactly.
Right? So through that process, I'm like, okay, cool, I'll do that. I'll just work every single day doing what I'm doing. In 5 or 10 years, I will have created enough to where I can support myself. But now it's turning into a whole new animal, man. Like, so I'm training to do this year. Next year, I'm going to do the same thing, but a longer distance, 345K. I'm going to do next year. But it's the goal.
It's amazing.
The ultimate goal is this, brother. In 2025, I'm going to break the record for the fastest run across Canada.
Holy shit.
So now why that is a thing is because in Canada, it's a thing that people have been trying to do for years because it's such a great distance. It's
well, and the terrain has got to be through all the fucking all over the place.
Yeah, so it's 7,300 kilometers and the equivalent of going up Mount Everest 7 times. Right? So that's the the elevation gain and descent is the same as seven times over.
So how do you train for something like this? I mean, forgive me, I'm ignorant.
No. Hey, look, I'm ignorant too. We're at the tip of the spear trying to figure this out.
I mean, you're obviously in good shape. You're a runner. Yeah. You've been doing it, but I'm like, holy shit, how do you train?
So this turns into a different thing altogether, right? Because when I break the record, I'll be the first person of color to do it. I'll be the first person of color. I'll be the first person of color to run across Canada. Forget anything else.
That's amazing.
Number one. Number two, I'll be the first law enforcement officer to ever do it. So that changes things quite significantly. So it's just because of that, it's changed everything. We're filming a movie now, documentary to track everything and to show. My vision is to do what Nims Dai did for 14 Peaks, is to have this movie documentary on Netflix, but not to highlight me, to highlight all the people around me that have been lifting me up. The collective around me is those are the heroes, man. Like, I'm just a guy just trying to working out and trying to train, and they're lifting me up to ensure that I'm able to do these things. So now what I'm doing, we're filming this documentary. The YouTube channel is starting. So over the next 2-3 years, I'm going to continue pumping the YouTube channel. I got a business partner now who's basically funding it all because I don't have the money to do it. I don't have it. I'm basically using all my money that I'm working with to invest in helping everyone else. So I'm currently getting paid, but I'm not like saving any of it, if that makes sense.
But you're pumping it back in, and it's for a good cause, and you're doing what you love.
Yeah, that's the awesome thing, man.
You're passionate. I could tell.
Yeah, so now for me, it's like, it's a blessing, man. Like, for me, I feel so awesome that I get to talk to you. I get to talk to another person. I get to fly over here. I get to run here. Yeah, I don't have tons of money, but I don't give a shit.
Yeah. Yeah. And like, you know what amazes me about the whole thing, Sach, is it all started. It's such an inspiring story. It all started, and I talked about this a couple of weeks ago. You started taking ownership of your shit.
Yeah.
I think it all starts there. Mm-hmm. You have to take owner. Our stories are it's kind of eerily parallel. I went through a horrible divorce. It was like one of the catalysts that brought me in the hole. But I knew, okay, I had 2 options, right? I could off myself, which I contemplated, or I can start crawling out of that hole. Same with you. I mean, I'm not saying you were suicidal or anything. I was, but what I started doing is I
don't mean to interrupt, but I wasn't suicidal, but with the tools I had, who knows what could have happened in a few months. Who knows?
Exactly. But I was at a point like you where I said, okay, am I going to stop blaming people for all my shit? Am I going to stop blaming my ex-wife? Am I going to stop? I took ownership. And once you take ownership, like Jocko talks about, he talks about his mission.
Yep.
Went awry. If you haven't read the book, read the book, Extreme Ownership. But a mission went whack. He wasn't there, but he was the guy, right? So he took ownership, just like you took ownership. I did, and hopefully the listener. It starts there. I'm not saying that relationships are one-way street. You know that, brother. I mean, they're two-way. But take ownership of your part of it.
Exactly. So for me, that was hard because my ego is huge.
Oh, same with mine.
So that was a journey in and of itself of trying to understand what all of this is. Because I was a guy who just did my job, did my thing. Fuck you, fuck that. Let's go, whatever. Yeah. Right? Like, But then now I'm trying to not be that guy. I'm trying to be more empathetic. I'm trying to be
Me too.
more thoughtful and be more in the moment and really understand what I'm feeling and how it's driving me.
Absolutely.
And a lot of the things that I do or have done, I haven't been a bad person at all. I've been a good person. However, I have had reactions throughout my life that are indicative of someone that is suffering from mental health.
Absolutely.
And so all I'm trying to do now is through the endeavors that I'm in is try to help myself. And if I'm able to help other people at the same time, then it's a bonus.
Yeah. And like you giving back and helping people. I mean, you know what I do.
Yeah.
That's my juice, dude.
Awesome.
That's what I get up for.
Yeah.
I never thought in a million years, brother, after 23 years in law enforcement, that I'd be basically working in the healthcare industry trying to get first responders help. But I am so passionate about it, like you are with running and your causes. This is why I'm here. I mean, that might sound cheesy to some people, but I truly believe that now. Just as that's why you're here for what you're doing.
But I think I don't think it's cheesy, and maybe other people may say that because they haven't had the right pill yet. Because they haven't been given the pill by Neo in the Matrix.
Exactly. I like that.
Because here's the thing, man. It's not cheesy because the reality is everyone has a purpose if they're able to identify what that is. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean everyone's purpose is the same or how they affect it is the same.
But you have a purpose.
I have a purpose. My purpose, now mind you, I'm fortunate because I have a friend named Sean Taylor, who's a tier 1 operator and a plank holder, who was able to help me to gear down to understand what my purpose was. So I spent days and days just fucking sitting there. What's my purpose? What do I want? How do I want to live? And it came to this. I just want to effect permanent positive change.
I love it.
And so that doesn't ever change. Now, running across Canada, if that's my purpose, then I'll lose because that'll be one event and it's done, right? But for me to affect permanent positive change, it's got to be until I'm dead and then when I'm after dead.
Exactly.
Right? So it continues to happen. So I wanted to touch base back onto the why run across Canada. It's because it's a thing in Canada where there was a man 40 years ago named Terry Fox. Have you heard of his name?
No.
Okay. Terry Fox is probably the greatest Canadian that's ever lived, and everyone should know who the fuck he is. I'll tell you why.
I know now. You told me, brother.
Yeah. I'll tell you why it's important. He was a 20-something-year-old man, early 20s. He had cancer. He had I can't remember which leg, but his leg removed because of the cancer. And he wanted to do something for other people. So without any fanfare, no one knew who the hell he was. He said he was going to run across Canada on a prosthetic leg from 40 years ago. Oh. You know what those legs would have been like, yeah. Right? And he made it halfway across Canada, and then he died. His cancer came back. And he knew his cancer had come back, but he wanted to still keep going. So halfway across Canada in Thunder Bay, Ontario, he died. Okay. And since then, in his name, over $1 billion has been raised in cancer research.
Wow.
Just because of him. Because they continue to do it even though he's dead. Sure. Every year in every elementary school in this country, they have a Terry Fox run. Every kid knows who he is.
Yeah.
There's statues all over this country with this man. So that's why it's an iconic thing to run across Canada. So whenever someone says, "Oh, I'm going to run across Canada," it's in his footsteps that we do it. It's because of him. That's why it's a thing. So it's a great honor for me to be able to try to figure out how to do that. And for me, shit, man, that's just
it's amazing, brother. And to do that, not only physically, obviously, it's demanding, very demanding. I can't even imagine, but mentally too. Yeah. Yeah. But when you're running, let me ask you this: you suffer from I suffer from PTSD. I told you a little bit about my anxiety too sometimes.
Yeah.
But do you find might be a dumb question, but I'm going to ask you anyway. Do you find when you're out there running, doing the things you do, giving back, that it actually helps you, that it's therapeutic for you?
100%.
Yeah. The same with 100%. Me. And I know, but that every time I talk to people like you who inspire me and other people, and I surround myself with positive people, I think that's key too. You know that. I mean, if you surround yourself with people who are fucking constantly complaining and shit, life sucks, and I've been there, then you're going to get that. Yeah. That is therapeutic for me. And it helps me. Yeah. It helps me. I'm still in recovery, brother. That's the stuff that helps me and keeps me going. You know,
I don't think it ever stops, right?
No, it doesn't.
Because this is, I mean, we are who we are now, right? It is what it is. Doesn't mean it's a bad thing. We can focus on our skill sets and see how we can use those things that someone may think is negative and point it in the right direction. I'm obsessed with what I'm doing. And most people, you have to have some level of dysfunction to do what I'm trying to do. I'm not a runner, bro. There's someone who has the record. He's been doing it his entire life. He's in his 40s or whatever. He's Dave Proctor, amazing athlete. He just broke the record this summer. He did it in 67 days. But what's exceptional and what's remarkable is this. That man, he's an amazing athlete, and he broke the record, and he's been doing marathons and ultra marathons his entire life. He's born for that. I just started running 2 years ago, and I'm running. I went from 5 kilometers a day to right now, if I had to, I could run 50 kilometers every single day. I could do that right now. And then so what really got me thinking, my initial goal, I'll tell you full disclosure, man, my initial goal was just to do exactly what Terry Fox did. His goal was to run a marathon a day. It was called the Marathon of Hope. And he would run a marathon a day, which is 42.2 kilometers every single day. I can do that right now after 2 years of training. So for me, I was like, oh, wait a second, I can do that right now. What more can we do? Let's drive this forward. Let's push.
Absolutely.
So I'm saying, I don't know if I can break the record.
But I'm going to
hire all the people to make sure I can do my best to do it. I've hired a running coach. I've hired a nutritionist. I've hired trainers. I've hired everything. All my money is going there. And if I don't break the record, that's okay. But I'm pretty darn sure I'm going to get close.
You will.
And if I get close, all I need is that mental fortitude to drive even further, right? So the reality is I'll go from no running in about 5 years going to 100 kilometers a day, and that means anyone can do that. Anyone.
Yeah.
Now what that symbolizes, okay, maybe not everyone wants to run, but anyone could do anything remarkable within their skill sets and whatever their purpose and goals are. They can do that if they do it with conviction. If they do that with discipline
and heart,
they do that with heart, and they do that with not with like a immediate gratification coming. You got to think 5 and 10 years.
Absolutely.
Anything less than that, it's a waste of time.
Absolutely.
In my opinion, anyway.
No, I agree with you. Now, I mean, do you? I'm gonna switch gears a little bit.
Sure.
Law enforcement is law enforcement. And I forgive me for my ignorance, Sach, but is law enforcement struggling in Canada like they are in the United States?
So I would say it's struggling, maybe it depends what the struggle is.
Yeah. Well, I mean, depression, isolate, all that stuff.
100%.
I mean, these brave men and women killing themselves.
I'll tell you right now, today there's a regimental funeral right now as we speak in my city because an police officer was stabbed and killed last week.
Jeez. Sorry to hear that. What do you think? Oh, go ahead, brother. I'm sorry.
Sorry. I just need a second. So that's going on now. So yes, for sure, a lot of people are suffering. I think it's not so much from officers getting shot or stabbed or killed, which is still extremely shitty. But I think what we're suffering more, and I suspect in the States, is the mental health, depression, and suicide rate.
Sure.
And that's with our veterans and our military staff. Now, I don't know what the numbers are. I haven't looked at the studies, but I know what the studies are in the U.S. And if 22 veterans are killing themselves every single day in the United States, I suspect the first responder world is just as high.
Yeah.
And if you were to incorporate North America, just Canada and the US alone, I would argue that you're looking at 50 to 60 to 70 people a day are committing suicide based off of if you were going to look at the trends, right? So those are things that I think that are huge issues. And I think the employers are trying to get there. They're trying to do the things, but like any government, that stuff will take time. And I think it has to be done. I think the stigma really needs to like go, because look, man, I was a high flyer.
Yeah.
I was one of the guys that did a lot of cool things at work, and I struggled mentally, and things could have probably been done better by me and by the employer in terms of like support and stuff, but
they always can,
but I think it's all new, right? Like a
Yeah.
lot of us, we don't know how to like function in it, man. Like even some of my, like the employer or my employer, for example, they're trying their best, but they can only do what they can. They don't know. I don't know. I'm just talking out of my ass now.
Well, no, I agree. I mean, the one thing I learned in my treatment, brother, is you have to, or I had to learn how to become very selfish, not in a narcissistic kind of dickhead way where I'm ignoring everybody and my friends and family, but selfish when it comes to my self-care.
Yeah.
You have to get that. You can't rely on employers to do that for you. I mean, it's like you mentioned Matrix. I mean, what did Morpheus say to Neo at one point? Look, I can show you the door.
Yeah.
But you got to walk through.
And you know what? It's that's the ownership piece, right? So
absolutely.
I think it makes a huge difference owning your stuff, man. As soon as I started owning a lot of my behaviors, I was able to author my future.
Absolutely.
And like, man, for me to come to the realization that I'm going to quit my job and donate my pension to charity, and then to just do what I'm doing, is like, it's amazing. It's awesome. And I know with 100% certainty that the things that I have planned will happen. And what I have planned, the run across Canada, but that's only part of what I got planned.
Exactly. And
what I got planned is like, I want David Goggins running 50K with me when I'm running across Canada.
Well, shit, make it happen.
I will. And I want Cameron Haynes to do the same thing.
And you mentioned, I mean, and I know you've heard this before. You mentioned money. Look, money's important. You know that. I know that.
Yeah.
But and I know this is old, but it's very relevant, I think, is if you're doing what you love, money's going to come to you. There's so many people out there. I was just talking about this out in Illinois. I mentioned to you I was out there.
Yeah.
I did a thing where I said, well, how many people? And these were cops. I was like, how many people like their job? You know how many people raise their hand? About 2. The reality is, a lot of people, the majority of people, don't like their job for whatever reason. But the rare people, the outliers like you, me, other people who love their job, who love what they're doing, the impact you're making in the world, which you are, fuck, life is golden, man.
It is.
I mean, when you wake up every day with a purpose, I'm not saying I didn't as a law enforcement professional, but it's a different type of purpose.
Yeah, it's different. But I've been thinking about that quite a bit. And I've been talking about it just with some friends and stuff. And it's like, look, being in law enforcement, for some people, it's a lifelong dream.
Sure.
For most, it's a secondary thing that they've done because the first thing didn't work. Right? They want that pension. It's the golden handcuffs. And in my experience with a ton of people that I've spoken to, they may say they love the job. They may say they've always wanted to do it. But when you ask them questions like, oh, what do you like to do? And they go on tangents, say, I love this thing. I enjoy doing this. I want to be blah, 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 blah. When I retire, I'm going to do that. So I want to share a quick story here. I was on a few weeks ago, we were doing a law enforcement memorial run. And there's also a law enforcement memorial bike ride. And that was a few weeks ago. And me and a group of law enforcement officers ran 130 kilometers from over a 3-day period to run from one city to Victoria. So we ran from Abbotsford to Victoria, and Victoria's on an island. So we had to take a ferry and the whole 9 yards. Anyways, point is this: we were meeting. I was around a whole ton of people. They're all law enforcement officers, and I'm just listening and paying attention. We're having breakfast on day 2, and I was listening to, one was a SWAT member, and the other one was just not just a, but like she was general duty. And so she was talking, and she was talking about plans for when she retires, and she was dreaming of doing this thing and wants to have this type of farm, blah blah blah. And it was awesome. Listen to it. So then my first question to her was like, "So you don't like your job?" And then she replied back by saying, "What do you mean? I love my job." I go, "Then why don't you? Then, but you're talking about this other thing. Why don't you just do that now? Why do you need to do the job thing? Because you seem more passionate about the other thing."
Yeah, that's a good question.
And it always comes down to, "Oh, bill, I got to pay this mortgage." Yeah. No, it's the struggle, right? So I'm starting a new career now. I need to spend 5 years to make that money. I guarantee you, in 5 years, I'll be making $500,000 a year likelihood, because YouTube will.
I know you will.
Yeah, because that'll generate. I already, like, so I know, but that's what the passion goes, man. Like, I'm just driving every single day. But at work, that passion may or may not be there for some people, so they're not able to affect that permanent positive change, because they're just doing it for a paycheck, or they're doing it for status, or they're doing it because they have a badge, or it's not. For me, it wasn't truly selfless, because I was going and getting a paycheck from someone else.
Sure.
What I'm doing right now, I feel, is selfless, because I've been struggling like a fucking, like you don't even understand, for the last 2 years. And I suspect over the next 2 is going to be a grind, but that's kind of the journey we're on.
But you got people around you.
And I'm happy that I'm on this journey now, because this is it just feeds my soul, man. I don't like, it's just like, I volunteer once a week with the boys club in Vancouver area. It's a high risk high school kids. And like, either the one meal a day they get might be with us on Wednesday, in terms of like the pizza or whatever we get and bring. And man, me just like, look, that feeds me more than me talking to them.
Giving
like me
back.
Just hanging out with like these kids, and like just listening to them, and hearing their stories, and the other mentors telling their stories. It's like, it's fucking awesome, man. Listening to all this, and it drives me even more to push even harder to affect that change. So yeah, man, it's awesome.
Now, if somebody's gonna, the people who are gonna listen to this, Sach, what advice would you, because you are amazing. I mean, your attitude is amazing, and we all suffer. You know that. We all go through shit. But if somebody is listening to this and they're suffering, what advice would you give? What advice would you give them right now to help them get through those difficult changes?
I can suggest what I did and how it helped me. Number one, I started by trying to own everything that I did. No matter how difficult that was, no matter how much that hurt my feelings or my ego. Number two, I tried to find like-minded people to surround myself by, so that I can just be around people that actually thought like me.
Sure.
Or not, no, who had similar interests. Right? Not everyone thinks the same, but if you have similar interests, you can align. And then find mentors that can help guide you.
Absolutely.
Because for me, I could have wanted to do something, but 100%, it was a lot faster and expedited with the help of my friend Sean. Had I been doing it on my own, it would have taken me much longer, for sure. So I think those are very fundamental. And then also service. I think those things, for sure, helped me. And I think, based on my sort of communication with other people who've gone through similar types of things, they've suggested the same stuff.
Yeah.
And it doesn't seem to be like, it all comes down to your ego, at least for me, and putting that ego away. Yeah, put that ego away and
be humble.
Seek guidance. And if you don't agree with it, that's okay. But at least keep an open mind and listen to the information, so you can make an informed decision as to which direction you want to go in. Right?
Yes.
I don't know. That's kind of my perspective.
Amazing. I mean, and for the people out there, I don't know what your thought is. We're about to say Such, but for the people out there, well, how do I find a mentor? And look, mentors don't have to be like right next to you. We live in a great time right now where we have the internet. you know, I mean, you can reach out. I mean, get online, try to search for a mentor in your area. They don't have to be one on, you know, in person. They could be virtual, right? I mean,
and think of it this way: it doesn't have to be that mentor mentee kind of feeling.
exactly,
Just two friends having coffee and having a chat,
exactly.
right? I just had a chat with a friend of mine, Josh. He lives in Alabama. Never met him. Never met him, like in person. But he and I've been talking for a year, just kind of shooting the shit on
Yeah.
Zoom, right? So we can do all kinds of things to find. And if you want, this is another thing that I started doing. I curated everything I looked at on social media, all the bullshit I got rid of.
Oh,
Right.
exactly.
So if you're constantly on Instagram or Facebook, curate it to the things that you want to learn and the people that you want to become or what you want to do in life. So for me, I just eliminated all the noise, all the dropping the asses of girls, all the bullshit stuff, all the garbage,
Yeah.
and just kept it to people that inspire me.
Yeah. Fill in
People
your
that,
soul.
yeah, and or people that are doing amazing things, and I want to just watch that because it feeds me, right? That kind of stuff, and for sure that's helpful, especially for someone like me who's always on my phone.
Yeah, exactly.
It helps to curate what you're looking at for sure.
It's amazing, brother. If people want to reach out to you, Sach, how do they find you, brother? How do they learn more about you? Because you're an amazing individual and you're doing amazing things. How can they reach out to you?
So I have a website, www.sachinmotion.ca. I also have my Instagram. So those two platforms, and also, sorry, my YouTube channel. So everything you can search is Sachin Motion. And the only difference is on my Instagram, it's such.in.motion. Someone hacked me last year and they took my original one. So I had to start it fresh this year or this year. So yeah, Instagram, I'm always on Instagram or YouTube. So, and my website's there. So if anyone wants to make a donation, if someone were to make a donation to Honor House, I don't touch any of the money. It goes directly to Honor House. If you're a Canadian living in Canada, you get a Canadian tax receipt. I'm not sure how it works if you're in the United States. I don't expect anyone to make a donation from the US, but I do know that where I live is very close to Bellingham, Tacoma, and Seattle. And we have serviced people from those areas. So yeah, if anyone wants to make a donation, we're open.
Amazing, brother. Thank you, Sach. And everything we talked about, brother, including what you just mentioned, how to find you and the great work you're doing will be linked up in the show notes, brother. You're
Thanks,
amazing.
Bro.
Finally, we got to make this happen.
And, hey, man, let's keep in touch.
I was going to say, we got to keep in touch, brother. I'll shoot you my cell. I don't know if I did already, but God bless you, brother.
Because I'm planning to come travel quite a bit more next year. And I do plan on going to visit my friend Josh in Alabama. And I do plan on going to Dallas next year. And then I would love to be able to come to Arizona because I've never been to
That'd be great, man. Arizona's great. I mean, don't come during the summer. It's 115 degrees.
Hey, bro, I love hey, I'm made for the heat, bro.
God bless you, brother. Thank you for being on, Sach.
Thanks,
Take
man.
care,
Appreciate
man. Bye-bye.
You too.